Hoop dreams indeed. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and tonight I've got a good one. A sports-themed graphic novel called Hoops by Matt Tavares. And this was great. It was on the news shelf when I was last at my public library, and I picked it up on a whim and I was not disappointed. Judy Wilson loves basketball. Her older brothers play it, and she watches them and plays a little on her own and gets shunted off to the side. It's the early 70s and she's expected to basically be a cheerleader for the boys team, and that's just how it is. Until something changes. At a pep rally in 1976, someone is called up to speak to the student body before the pep rally continues. So Miss Montez gets up and announces the news that for the first time ever, their school will have a girls' basketball team. Judy is thrilled. This is what she's been wanting for years. And so she's super excited for tryouts later on. Well, the only problem is that tryouts are not at their school. They're at the elementary school a few blocks away. And when she gets to the tryouts, she's told by their school's athletic director and coach of the boys team that, well, they haven't got a coach set up yet, and they don't have uniforms yet, and he brings some balls by, but basically tells them that they don't have a coach, they have to use the elementary school gym at 7 p.m. because the high school gym is being used for the various boys teams from varsity to junior varsity to freshman, and that they're on their own, and he leaves. Well, the 8 girls decide to try to make the best of it, and they try to figure things out a little bit on their own for a couple practices in a row until Miss Montez shows up. She reveals that, while the school was forced to offer equal athletic opportunity due to Title IX, they expected her to coach as a volunteer thing, and she felt that was pretty unfair because it wasn't part of her teaching duties and insisted on getting paid for it, and they eventually worked things out. And so she takes on the role of their coach, and they start practicing and they work together on things. But it's not smooth sailing. They're still given no budget for things. They still have to use the crummy elementary school gym and have their games at awkward times and do not have official uniforms. So they all have to bring white t-shirts and use electrical tape to put their numbers on them. It's embarrassing and humiliating. And because of her family schedule, Judy is stuck figuring out what to do with her time. Between school and when practice starts at 7, she's on her own because her mom can't get off early. So she hangs out with one of her new teammates and they stop by a convenience store to buy a quick snack, usually baby food. At any rate, they make it to their first game, playing with their white t-shirts and electrical tape, and they win the game. And it's great. And they manage to win another game, and it's fantastic, and things are going well, except for the fact that they have no support from the school. One of Judy's teammates gets fed up. She says, "I'm done. This is ridiculous that we cannot get any support or anything from the school." And she quits. Judy heads off to talk her into coming back, and we see a bit why she's so frustrated by it. She works at her family's hardware store, and even though she's worked there for years and is knowledgeable and helpful, many of the customers who come in won't tell her what they need. They insist on waiting to talk to her dad. At any rate, she and Judy agree that they're going to write a letter to the school basketball coach of the boys team and demand equal treatment, uniforms, and buses to away games instead of going in the RV that Miss Montez borrowed from a family member, and game day meals and gym time. And he listens to these demands and says, forget it. Title IX says we have to offer this athletic opportunity to make things equal, but it didn't provide any extra funding. Where's the money supposed to come from for all this? I'll tell you what, if you pack the gym, we'll get you some funding for these things. So the girls take it upon themselves to start marketing their team. They start selling tickets to their games and advertising it. And turnout is pretty darn small to start with. But they gradually attract attention as they start winning. And as they get mentioned on the radio and have their game broadcast on the radio. And they gradually attract fans, and they make it into the state tournament. It was really, really good. Tavares based it on a true story about a school where Judy Wilson went to that had a basketball team in 1976 that was started in response to Title IX being enacted. Tavares notes in his author's notes that he spoke to Judy and a few other members of the team, but because he didn't want to claim things about them that didn't really happen, he decided to make a fictionalized version and just add in an author's note that it was based on some true events, although a lot of it was invented. I personally would love to know if Judy and her friend actually snacked on baby food before practice, but that's another story. Tavares' art style is just fine. It's nice and clean and clear. Solid colors, not a lot of shading, gradients, or the like. Very, very abstract-y background characters and crowd scenes. It's simple and effective. The story is told really, really well. The characters are compelling and realistic. The team's frustration about being treated as second-class citizens just powers through the pages. And it's very, very strong. It was great. I really, really liked it. In terms of sports graphic novels, you could try Dragon Hoops by Jean Lun Yang. And if you're a fan of that, you'd probably get a lot out of this. It was also a slightly fictionalized account of a real basketball season for the high school he was working at the time. If you're into the more historical side of things and more about the relationships between people, I'd recommend going with Sunny Side Up by Jennifer and Matthew Holm. And there are a lot of similarities between this and the Sunny series. They feel like, it feels like Judy Wilson and Sunny could be neighbors who live a few streets apart and could easily pop into each other's worlds in this era. They were taking place at the same time. Sunny Side Up takes place in 1976 as the bicentennial July 4th celebration is part of the storyline. And yeah, it was really, really good. Now, there are spoilers ahead because I have to talk about the deal breaker. The only deal breaker, and this is nitpicky, and I fully admit that, is that the main conflict in the book was resolved halfway through. Yes, the overarching conflict is the girls with the sexism and lack of parity offered between the athletics programs. And that's true, but in practice, it plays as this overarching thing that's sort of in the background of everything they're doing. For the day-to-day events, the conflict is that one team member leaving the team for a short time, and it's resolved halfway through the book. It was a dramatic moment, someone being fed up and speaking up on behalf of all of them, and their discussion, their head-to-head meeting with the boys team coach was compelling, and it was great, and it was very realistic, and I could see 1,000 men like him having conversations like that at the time, saying, hey, where's the money going to come from for this? And being, pretty unreasonable about it. But just in terms of pacing for the book, I feel like it would have been stronger if that had been shifted to further down the line. That it wasn't this big conflict and her coming back on the team and them knowing that, hey, if they get sponsors and stuff, it'll be okay, they'll get equal treatment. And while I realized that conversation with the coach prompted their actions in the second half, selling tickets and talking to someone about getting the radio play and so on, to me it felt like the blow up between the team members might have worked better later on to amp up the drama heading into state championships and the like. And while I understand that this is based on a real story and they did in fact win the state championship, it seems a little implausible that all these girls on this team, only one of whom had played as part of an organized team in the past, came out of nowhere to form a team with only 8 players and compete and win a state championship in their first year of competition, even though there were other schools with existing girls' teams. It's a Cinderella story in that regard. It felt like a little much. I don't think their team loses a single game. And maybe that's in fact what happened in real life. It felt a little unrealistic. I know the overarching conflict was with the limitations of Title IX and the misogyny they were facing, and I understand that. It felt like there should have been more. Still, I loved the heck out of this. I enjoyed it. I sat down and read it in one sitting. Go borrow it from your local public library. Go borrow it for someone who likes sport stories. Go borrow it for someone who wants to learn more about the context regarding athletics and unequal treatment for male and female athletes. Go borrow it. You won't regret it. While I'm talking about borrowing things, if you use and appreciate the services offered by your local public library, why not take just 1 minute and tell the powers that be exactly that? Tell your mayor, tell a council member, tell an MP or an MLA that you use and value the services offered by your public library. We're at a time where some public libraries are having trouble finding the sustainable funding they need to continue improving the materials, programs, and services they offer to you, and a few good words in the right ears might make a world of difference. While I'm on the topic, if you are a staff member who works at a library, don't forget that watching my videos counts as professional development time. With that, thanks for listening to me bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce about how much I like this book. By all means, please like, please subscribe, and please check back to see what else I have to talk about from the Cow Hat Library. Thank you. Bye now.